Welcome to Car Help Q&A. My name is Shari, and today I'm going to be answering your questions from the comments section. And if you want to have your car question answered in a future Q&A video, just leave your question down below and I'll try to answer it next time. So let's get right into it, starting with the first question. Thanks for the honest opinions. Do car brands ever punish you or not give you test vehicles after reviews like this? For example, I've heard that Motormouth does not get certain brands that they reviewed poorly. Okay, interesting question. The short answer is yes, depending on what you mean by being punished. Now, in my opinion, there are some car companies that do refuse to loan me vehicles because of the type of videos that I make. Volkswagen doesn't give me cars to review, neither does Audi. In fact, I find it quite difficult to even get a response from them whenever I contact them. And I also don't get invited to many launch events. For those who don't know, people who do what I do, reviewing cars, car journalists, they often get invited by car companies to these events. They're usually an event somewhere in a fancy location around the world. They fly all the car journalists there. They pay for their flights, pay for their hotels, pay for their fancy meals, and they sometimes even give them gifts at these events. And I often don't get invited to these events, and I really do think it's because of the type of videos I make. Unlike many other car journalists that only say good things, they're mostly all positive in their reviews, talking about all the features, all the great things. They don't really give consumers the kind of deep, real information that they're looking for. Whereas because I'm a consumer advocate and a consultant, I talk to consumers every day, and I've spoken to thousands of consumers over the past decade doing what I do. I really know what people are looking for, what car buyers want when they're shopping for a car, and that's the information I always try to give in my reviews. I always talk about reliability, cost of ownership, cost of repair, and I'm not afraid to say whether I think a car is good or bad, whether I recommend buying it, or whether you should just avoid it because it's junk and it's going to cost you a lot of money in the long run. I'm not afraid to say that, and I think that's the right thing to do because I really care what happens to people. I want to make sure that you're making the right choice, you're not wasting your money, and you're not going to end up with a huge headache that's going to cause you a lot of problems. I don't want that for anybody. I want to make sure that everybody ends up doing the right thing and ends up in the best situation. So I try to be as honest as possible, and hey, if it means that I don't always get to be the first to drive the newest cars or I don't get to go to these fancy events, so be it. I've made my bed and I'm perfectly happy doing things the way I do. So hopefully that answers that question. Good afternoon, Shari. I need your opinion, please. I am between a Hyundai Sonata and Nissan Altima. In your opinion, which is the best option, or is it not a good idea? Thank you. Okay, well, between these two particular cars, I would be leaning more towards the Hyundai Sonata. I think it's a better designed vehicle than the Altima, which I really would not recommend. Nissan has a lot of problems right now. The company is potentially at risk of going bankrupt, and the Altima does have a history of having a lot of reliability problems, especially with its CVT transmission. So between those two, I think the Sonata is the better choice. I would only consider it though if you're going to get an amazing deal with a huge discount, because dealerships can't give them the way. They are a very slow selling car, so you need to get an amazing deal. Otherwise, you're better off buying something that's just a better car in the first place. I think the best mid-size cars are really the Honda Accord, but number one for sure, by a long shot, the Toyota Camry. If you're shopping for a mid-size sedan, that would be my number one choice, without question. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Wondering how a car accident affects the value of a vehicle. Would you be able to explain that in a video? Okay, great question. The short answer is that yes, accidents always have an impact on the value of a vehicle. It's typically around 1/3. So whatever the amount of the accident claim is, 1/3 of that amount is what you can deduct from the price of the car. So if a car was in an accident that cost $9,000 to fix, the value of that car will have dropped by around $3,000. It's a rough rule of thumb that I find is pretty accurate. So yeah, it's going to have an impact on the value for sure. That's why dealerships need to disclose accident history to you, because a lot of buyers tend to be turned off from a car when it's been in a very serious accident. Now, should you avoid cars that have been in an accident? Not necessarily. If it was a minor accident, say something up to $5,000 to be repaired, that's considered very minor and nothing significant, really, because modern cars are so complicated, they're expensive to repair, even when they've been in accidents, that even a minor bumper replacement can easily cost up to $5,000 now, which is really not a big deal. And trust me, I know. So don't be turned away by very minor accidents up to around $5,000. They're not a big deal and they're not going to affect the car, but make sure you pay the right price because they do impact the value. Okay, next question. Please, your opinion, Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid, Toyota RAV4, or Mazda CX-70 plug-in hybrid. Which is the best to buy and why? Okay, so plug-in hybrid SUVs. My number one choice out of those three, if you want the safest, reliable choice, definitely the Toyota RAV4 plug-in hybrid. It's the best. Toyota knows how to make hybrids. They've been making them longer than any other car brand, and they've really perfected the technology. Their hybrid systems are the most reliable. They really have very few issues as they age. They can last a long time. And the RAV4 plug-in hybrid is a good vehicle. It has the best electric range when you charge it. I think it can go around 45 miles or 70 kilometers on a charge. It has the best fuel economy in hybrid mode, and it has great performance. It has over 300 horsepower, so it's a great vehicle overall. Definitely my number one choice. Number two and number three would be the Mitsubishi and the Mazda. Both of those are very good vehicles as well, but just not quite as good as the RAV4. So that would be the one I would go with from those three. Hello, I'm Charles from Nigeria, and I must say I really enjoy your car review videos. Please, would love if you could tell me to making the choice between buying a 2020 Honda CR-V or 2020 Toyota RAV4, considering reliability and maintenance costs, given that I would like to keep the car for 5 to 6 years before a change. Okay, well, again, I'm going to repeat myself what I said last time. Toyota RAV4. That's the one you really cannot go wrong with if your primary concern is reliability, cost of repair, and just having low maintenance, low ownership costs. That would be the one that I would go with between those two. But again, you really can't make a bad choice here. Both the CR-V and RAV4 are both really good vehicles. Okay, next question. In the US, Ram is dropping the prices on their trucks by 35%. Will it affect Canadian dealerships? Are Canadian dealerships hurting like the ones in the US? Good question. So there are a lot of videos on YouTube talking about how there's a huge market crisis. There's going to be a market crash with prices coming plummeting down and dealerships can't sell their cars, all this kind of stuff. It's definitely not the same situation in Canada. Canada seems to be a few steps behind the US. We've taken a lot longer to recover from the car shortage when compared to the US, and dealers in Canada don't have the same level of inventory as they do in the US. So it's not quite as dire of a situation, but it is still getting up there, especially for certain brands. In this case, Stellantis, a major one, they really cannot sell any vehicles. Ram, Jeep, Dodge, and so on. They're piling up on dealer lots, which is why you're seeing massive incentives like this, where you can get 15, 20% off MSRP, even larger discounts on leftover inventory from the previous year. So it's starting to happen in Canada as well, just not to the same extent as the US. So definitely 2025 is looking like the year that you should be able to get a good deal if you're shopping for a car. So good question. And for our next one, I wonder what the impact the tariffs will have on the ranking of best worst resale value. What is Car Help Corner's take? Okay, well, when it comes to the tariffs, everything is really just speculation at this point because we really don't know what the real impact is going to be or whether the tariffs are even going to happen in the first place. But the consensus seems to be that if tariffs do come into place and they end up being long lasting for several months or years, depending on how long it goes for, it will have an impact on prices. Car prices will go up both in the US and Canada. And normally when we have price increases on new vehicles, that does translate to higher prices on used vehicles. Also, fewer people are going to be buying cars because of the affordability, higher prices, and that means the price of used cars will go up. And yeah, very likely that for the majority of cars where there are big price increases, the resale value for those used cars will go up as well. So that's my prediction. But again, we really don't know what's going to happen and until we see what happens with these whole tariffs. Only time will tell. I like your channel. You explain things very well and are very professional. Thank you very much. What do you think about Suzuki vehicles and why are they not in the US market? Well, Suzuki used to be in North America. They were in North America, both the US and Canada, until around 2012, where they pulled out of the market. And they did that simply because they were not selling vehicles. They were very slow selling. They had a very small dealer network, and they just could not compete with all the other car brands. So unfortunately, they did pull out. And I kind of feel that's the situation that Mitsubishi has been in for quite a few years now. Similar situation, small company, very small, poor dealer network, and the company always seems to be on the brink of bankruptcy or pulling out of the market. So that's why I'm very hesitant to recommend Mitsubishi, because I saw what happened to Suzuki and history could repeat itself. But I really wish that we did have Suzuki back because they make some pretty interesting cars. I'd love a chance to drive a Suzuki Jimny, a small, simple, very appealing off-road SUV. I think it would sell extremely well in North America. And that's the type of vehicle that really Toyota and Jeep should really be making something like that. I'd love to drive one day, but hey, that's the way it is. Okay, next question. I'm an Infiniti Master Tech and was also a Nissan Master Tech, and it's crazy that I cannot agree more with this video. I can agree with everything said. I've been getting worried as Infiniti has been doing nothing but discontinuing vehicles with no explanation on why. Now my question to you is this. Do you think that Honda would drop Infiniti or try to save both brands? Well, as we now know, the whole Nissan-Honda deal doesn't appear to be happening. Both companies have decided to separate. They could not come to an agreement, so that's that. Honda is going to be on its own, as it was before, and Nissan is going to have to try and find a way to survive, either partnering with another brand or just making a go of it on their own, which does not look very good because the company is in serious trouble. They seem to be edging closer and closer to bankruptcy. Their financial situation is absolutely abysmal, and I think they're going to have to make some huge, tough decisions very soon. And I think one of those decisions is going to be to cut the entire Infiniti brand. Infiniti really doesn't have much reason to exist anymore. They have hardly any vehicles. The vehicles they have are just not that appealing to buy. They're overpriced. Consumers are not really buying them. And I don't think it's a good idea to buy one. So I do think Infiniti is probably going to disappear in the near future. Who knows when, but yeah, I think that's very likely. So there you have it. Thanks so much for watching. And again, if you want to have your car question answered in a future Q&A video, just leave your question in the comment section below. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.